Hey everybody, it's Anna. Welcome back to my booktube channel. You'll have to excuse the delightful Pacific Northwest basement lighting here. But yeah, today I'm coming to you with the beginning of my May reading vlog. I've been finding that doing these reading vlogs once a month has been a really good way for me to keep up with this booktube channel in a way that works for me, a way that is more sustainable for me, and also I've just been having a lot of fun kind of making these shorter like clips and stitching them all together. You get like a better picture of my life and my reading. So I actually finished one book, my first book of May, last night. Mostly I read this during April, but it's fine. I finished it late last night. And that's Well Matched by Jen DeLuca. This is the third book in her, I don't know what the name of the series is, but it's like a series that takes place all surrounding a Renaissance fair. It's this really cute, like, contemporary romance story. It follows April. She's a single mom of a teenage daughter, and there's sort of a fake dating trope at the beginning where her daughter's gym teacher, who she's been friends with and who everyone in the town, like, totally wants to smash because he's really hot in a kilt, where he needs like somebody to, you know, pose as like a fake girlfriend for a weekend, and she agrees to do it, you know, and then they gradually start developing feelings for each other, of course. I thought that the starting of this book was a little bit weaker, a little bit more poorly written than the rest of it, but it was really fun. I thought it was a great addition to the series, and I'm not always a fan of fake dating in books, but I think this one was actually done really, really well. I think that the reason for the fake date and the way that it was, you know, kept up or not kept up throughout the story was really well handled. So loved it. Can't wait to read the fourth book in the series, which is coming out this fall. That's going to follow Lulu, who is a side character from this one. She is the sister of the male love interest, and then also Dex, who's kind of like the other guy from the Flying Kilts dance company. And I think this is going to be about what it's like to do Ren Fair while traveling. So a lot of people that do Ren Fair, some of them are local to the area, but a lot of performers especially travel around different regional ones, or they travel, you know, to the south, because in the southern United States, at least, the Ren Fairs tend to happen in like the winter months because it's warmer. And also doing Ren Fair in the summer in like Florida, where I grew up, would really suck. Like, you would just, no, could not recommend. So I can't wait for that next book. I don't really have a ton of books on like a TBR for May, but I have a couple things in mind. So May, I forgot until I was watching some booktube videos yesterday, the Asian Readathon is actually happening because it's Asian American, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So I don't have a set TBR for that, but I looked at my books that I have yet to read because I'm trying to make my way through my physical books, and I have Phoenix Extravagant by Yoon-Ha Lee, which I pre-ordered when it came out. I know that there's like dragon automatons in this and somebody trying to bring down like a corrupt government. So I'm definitely going to be reading that this month. It just sounds like a really great adventure story. And I remember really enjoying, I believe it was called Dragon Pearl, which was Yoon-Ha Lee's book for the Rick Riordan Presents imprint. So that was really good. I hope that this one is really great as well. And I have two books that I need to finish this month. One of them is Call Us What We Carry, which is a poetry collection. Dropping things. Hold on one second. Here I am. It's a poetry collection by Amanda Gorman. I started this for the Disability Readathon in April, but I didn't manage to finish it. And then the other one is the Betty's Pages Challenge Yourself pick for April, which was Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. This is a combination of both this author's experiences, a little bit of a memoir, a little bit of a science book, because this author is both a biologist and an indigenous person, and so she talks about like the knowledge of plants and the natural world that she has learned both from her culture and her heritage and storytelling, specifically within her culture, and also from her experience as a scientist and a professor and someone in a really academic environment, which is of course very different. I'm loving reading this book. I'm really taking my time with it. It's pretty long, so it'll probably take me most of the month to finish it. It's 400 pages. but I'm really, really enjoying that. And then the other book that I have that I'm probably going to start today that's on my TBR is Out of Character by Annabeth Albert. I read Conventionally Yours, which was her first romance novel that was like set at a convention or like surrounding a convention, and that was a male romance. I believe that's what this is too. I think that was one of the first books that I read actually where like one of the people in it was a bi man who was in love with another man, because I was trying to think. I've definitely seen more representation of like bi women and bi non-binary people in my romance reading, but I hadn't really seen representations of bisexual men as much. So I don't know what this is going to have in terms of that, but I am really looking forward to it, because the first book was about a convention that was surrounding like a collectible card game, and I've been like a huge nerd about that stuff since like college, so I really enjoyed it and I'm looking forward to reading this. Don't really have too much else to update you with just now. I think what you heard falling down previously was my crochet hook, so I actually think I'm gonna work some on that project, and I'll see you all in a little bit.
So this is me picking out what books I was going to read for the Challenger Shelf for, what month was this? May, which was Mental Health Awareness Month. I wound up picking a picture book, a middle grade graphic novel, and a YA. And this is just Gemma, my dog, being absolutely adorable.
Hello, friends. It is Friday, May 6th. Since last I talked to you, I have finished up reading 2 books for the month of May. One of them was on my TBR, and one of them was just a book that I had started last month that I finished. So for the book that I plan to read, I finished Out of Character by Annabeth Albert. This is like an adult contemporary romance in her kind of like nerdy, geeky series. I don't know what the name of the series is. But yeah, this follows 2 young men like college age named Milo and Jasper, who used to be childhood best friends. And Jasper came out when they were both in high school, and Milo was still closeted, but also kind of fell in with some of the like homophobic bullying crowd. And so the 2 of them, you know, grew apart for obvious reasons. Met back up again when they were both college age because Milo got in deep shit by doing something really, really stupid and wanted Jasper to help him out. So it's kind of the story of them reconnecting after this long absence and then falling for each other because it's a romance. I thought this book was just okay. It wasn't as good or as strong, I think, as the first one in the series. I did think it was a little bit long too. Like, this book was almost 400 pages. And I feel like it didn't need to be quite that long. I'll also be the first to admit that I'm not the hugest fan of books or tropes in which the character who like used to be the bully then has to befriend or, wind up falling in love with the person that they were really mean to in the past. Just because a lot of times I feel like that isn't really earned in the book. You kind of are just told that this person has a change of heart, but they actually don't. I think this book kind of did all right on that. I think there were definitely points in the book where Milo demonstrated that he really had changed as a person instead of just saying that he did. And that was one of the central tensions. But I don't know, it just didn't really grab me as much. I'm sure that that's just down to personal taste though. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. And then the book that I started last month that I finished is Science of the Magical: From the Holy Grail to Love Potions to Superpowers by Matt Kaplan. And I did not like this book. This is a popular science book by a man who's a science journalist, and in it he takes a bunch of different cases of magical things from folklore and mythology, and tries to see if there's any science to back it up. Which sounds like an interesting premise, right? That's what I thought, but it was not. This book is covered in dog hair, sorry. This was just not my thing. Every single segment of the book lasted at most 3 pages. So there was never really enough time to get into anything super interesting because I felt like the book was just moving along so fast. So you would get into this thing about, people that thought that they had created the Philosopher's Stone because they boiled their own pee down into glow-in-the-dark rocks of phosphorus, which they believed were their glowing pea rocks were gonna turn things into gold. And like, that sounds awesome, right? But then the segment of the book ends abruptly because they just have to move on to the next thing. This suffered from what I think a fair number of popular science books do, which is that in their attempts to be so like cursory and get so much into the book, it really felt like this would have done better as a collection of articles than as a book. I don't think as a book it was very good. I think as a book, too much of this was too speculative for me to really feel invested in it. And when I read like a nonfiction book, especially a science book, I really want to learn something. You know, it doesn't need to be the most earth-shattering revelation, and it doesn't need to be like textbook learning, but I would like to learn something. And I really feel like the glowing pea rocks are my main takeaway from this book, and that was like 3 pages. That and the fact that apparently reindeer will actively seek out psychedelic mushrooms to eat, and then they propagate the mushrooms by pooping out the spores like far and wide wherever they go, because reindeer roam very far across the tundra looking for food. And this is how psychedelic mushrooms in the far north reproduce themselves, which I just thought was kind of hilarious, that these reindeer are like tripping balls and helping the fungi just get out there into the world. But the book was just too speculative. I mean, so much of this stuff was like, well, here's an idea that I have that is tangentially relating science to mythology. I called an expert friend of mine, you know, usually someone who is a well-respected scientist in the field, and the conclusion more often than not is just, and there wasn't enough evidence to support my initial idea. So, too speculative, too brief in all of its treatments. I'm sure somebody would like this book, but that person is just not me. What am I currently reading now? I mean, I'm really focused on reading Book of Night by Holly Black, which I have, but it's upstairs, so I'm not getting it. I actually pre-ordered that book, and it's her first adult book. I'm about halfway through it now, and I'm enjoying it. I'm kind of wondering where some of the plot is going. It's starting to feel a little bit like it's losing steam, but it's about a world in which people's shadows can kind of come to life independently of the person that they're attached to, and there's like all these magical rituals that are attached to it. But like anything that's, you know, creepy and like dark academic, they are attached to some secretive cabals that have closely guarded, you know, blood magic rituals that they use to make the shadows come to life. And our main character, Charlie, is sort of a small-time thief, grifter, con artist that is, she keeps getting put up to steal one of these really rare and valuable, like, magical grimoires that help people awaken their shadows, basically. And I'm enjoying it. It's like a lot of Holly Black books. I think Mercedes said this on her channel, where it's like you feel very, very compelled to read it, and then when you put it down, you're just kind of like, okay. But, I mean, it's just fun as all heck in the process of reading it, you know? Like, I'm enjoying it. So I will check back in again in a little bit with that. Might be a while between updates here because we actually have my best friend coming to visit and then my family members coming to visit as well across the next 2 weeks. So don't know how much reading I'm going to get done within the next 2 weeks, but hopefully I will get to take you with me to some bookstores and maybe the library while they're visiting. So see ya. Hey friends, it's Anna. It is Mother's Day, Sunday, May 8th. So happy Mother's Day to all of the child nurturers out there, whether you are a bio mom or not. Today is for you. Yeah, so I am pausing in my Sunday, like, super chaotic cleaning frenzy. My God, my hair is a disaster too. To give you a little bit of a reading update because, in fact, I have finished a book. Okay, so I finished reading Book of Night by Holly Black. This is her adult debut, and I thought that this book was pretty good, actually. I didn't really know what to expect because I just bought it because I knew I was gonna like reading her book, but I didn't check really much what the story was about. We follow this woman named Charlie, who is like a thief, a grifter, a con artist, and she is in a world where like people's shadows can sort of gain a life of their own and gain powers of their own if they are fed blood. So this book is pretty like dark and fucked up, and it's definitely adults only. Well, you know, not adults only, but like it is not written for younger readers. It is written for adults. And so we follow Charlie as she's kind of trying to get on the straight and narrow, but always like slipping back into her shadow broker dealing ways. This book was kind of interesting as a mashup of a bunch of different genres. It takes a leaf from urban fantasy, it takes a leaf from dark academia, detective noir, all of these different types of genres kind of all mashed up together in this one story. I was wondering whether this was going to be a series when I read it, because there was definitely a part in the middle of the book where the story really just started to lag, and I was like, oh no, is this one of those things where they're dragging it out because the plot's going to get further developed in like book 2, book 3, because like everything needs to be a trilogy now. But I think that this is a standalone. Like it ended with, I think, the possibility that there could be a sequel, but like it was an end, you know, like it wasn't a cliffhanger or a beat or anything like that. It was just this ended. And this was pretty good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Don't know if I'm gonna like be raring to reread it, but you know, Holly Black books are just so much fun to read. Like in the moment, they're page turners. I stayed up all night not to finish reading this book, but I kind of just couldn't sleep, and I happened to finish reading this book when I was busy, you know, having my insomnia, 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't sleep. So yeah, definitely enjoyed this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I'm probably gonna pass this on to a friend to share because that's what books are for. And then additionally, I have been reading a couple library books, and I will talk to you a little bit more about those later. But before I go today, I want to share the little mini book haul thing that I have going on. So this weekend, I went to Half Price Books with my husband. We try to do this like once a month where we go get books together, and, you know, usually we go out and get breakfast and just, you know, have like a date day, which is really fun. And we got a lot of books. So these are the ones that I picked out. I want to say these were 5 books. I don't think I paid more than an average of like $8 for each of them. But I also sold some books back. So I wound up with some books in credit, and then that means that overall, I think around $20 is what I paid out of pocket for all of these. Maybe like 25, something around that. So I think that's pretty good for 5 books. For me, that's a very good deal. So let's go through and tell you a little bit about the books that I bought. So the first is Collapse: How Societies Choose to Fail or Succeed by Jared Diamond. I have actually read this book before. I read it in college as part of a class that I took on Scandinavian mythology, because there is a chapter in here that is about the Viking colony in Greenland and how that failed and collapsed. So we read that chapter for that course, and then I read the rest of it. And I've been meaning to reread this. It is kind of a big, thick boy. And my husband has been wanting to read it as well. I keep telling him how good it is. And we already have Guns, Germs, and Steel, so I'm like, I'm going to put this on the shelf with the other Jared Diamonds and reread that. Got another nonfiction book that actually Fariba from The Eclectic Reader talks about quite frequently. So I've been looking for a copy, and this is American Wolf, A True Story of Survival and Obsession in the West by Nate Blakesley. And this is a nonfiction book about the reintroduction of the American gray wolf to Yellowstone National Park. And this is a wolf that I think at one time there were maybe like 8 of them still alive. They were like very critically endangered and then were reintroduced into the wild. So this is, you know, fascinating case study in like ecology and conservation and, you know, humanity's relationship to nature, of which we are also a part. But, you know, there's this weird myth that we're somehow like separate from or above nature. So Fariba has talked about this quite extensively and how much she really likes this book. We tend to have really similar tastes in reading, and so I'm definitely going to be checking it out. And also, because when you buy used books, you get fun little things. It has this cute little postcard from Shakespeare and Company bookstore in Missoula, Montana. That's adorable. If I'm ever in the area, I'm definitely going to check that shop out. Okay, and then the last nonfiction book that I got, What Doesn't Kill You, A Life with Chronic Illness, Lessons from Body in Revolt by Tessa Miller. This was my most expensive book because it was a hardcover, so I think this was like $13. This book I have had on my radar for a while. I think I had it on one of my lists of like books that I wanted to read for the Disability Readathon. And it's one of the books that I wasn't able to find at my library. That has probably changed since then, but back when I looked originally, they didn't have it. And it's a memoir about a woman who is a journalist and how she is, you know, dealing with her original diagnosis of Crohn's disease. And, you know, the idea of living with a chronic illness is also partially, you know, like accepting that that is not just something that you get better from, it's something that you learn to live with. And it's also this, you know, wider discussion of chronic illness and disability and the way that we need to really change the way that we think about that in our society, which, you know, disabled people have been saying this since the beginning, but now that like COVID is, you know, going to be like one of the greatest mass disabling events that we have ever seen, is unfortunately all too timely. So definitely looking forward to reading that. And then I got 2 fiction books. One of them is Hex, a novel by Rebecca Dinerstein Knight. This is kind of a dark academic-ish lesbian poisoners type book. The little blurb says that she paints a withering portrait of the web of toxic romances and the excesses of academia, while illustrating how both the heart and the mind can be broken and reshaped by changing circumstances. It just seems like it ticks all of my boxes, and I mean, look at this like pastel goth flower skull thing we have going on, made out of all poisonous plants, by the way. If you're a plant nerd like myself, you're just gonna be like, oh, henbane, digitalis, this and that, and all these things that are gonna poison you. So I saw this book first in like a new bookstore at my local bookstore, and I was like, this looks great. I don't really have $30 to shell out for a hardcover, but I got this in a paperback and it was like $7. So gimme. And the last book that I got was The Mere Wife by Maria Devana Headley, maybe. And this is the same author who did the most recent like feminist translation of Beowulf, which I read last summer and absolutely adored. This is her novel that is also kind of a dealing with interaction with the Beowulf story, but it is retold in the modern day. I'll read you the little back blurb. It says, from the perspective of those who live inside Harrod Hall's highly surveilled walls, it is paradise. Picket fences, gabled buildings, an entirely self-sustained community. Willa, the wife of Roger Harrod, scion of Harrod Hall's founder, flits between playdates, cocktail hours, and dinner parties with her son Dylan in tow. Just beyond the suburbs' limits, in a cave in the mountains, lives Gren, short for Grendel, with his mother Dana. A former soldier, Dana didn't want Gren, but when she returned from war, there he was. And when a growing, adventurous young Gren runs off with Dylan, he sets up a collision between Dana's and Willa's worlds that echoes the epic tale of Beowulf and gives sharp, startling currency to the ancient poem. I believe Jen Campbell talked about this book as well on her channel. Again, we have pretty similar reading tastes, and I tend to like to read books that Jen reads just because her thoughts are great and awesome and always make me want to go check out those books. So that's my little mini impromptu book haul thing, and I will see you all in just a little bit. Bye. So, hung up some new pictures. This is all of the track titles of Blue by Joni Mitchell. The glare kind of sucks, so you can't really see it. And then our other one, again, all the ancestors, but we hung up our little Seattle record. So, you can check it out up here. The mantle looks really good. Yeah? Yeah, I think so. And another bookshelf, because why not? But in the meantime, look at these cute puppies. I mean, they're just so adorable, right? I guess that this azalea is pretty cute too. But it's the girls. It's actually really super nice outside today, so I brought my current nonfiction read out. This book is called The Founding Myth, Why Christian Nationalism is Un-American by Andrew L. Seidel. I'm not done with it, but it is one of the best written and best argued books that I have ever encountered. I'm very excited to give you all of my full thoughts here, but basically it is a masterpiece in rhetoric and legal scholarship. I got to meet Andrew as part of a meeting for work, and I was like, I'm gonna read your book because I believe in becoming familiar with your colleagues' work, and it's really fucking good, guys. So I will share some more thoughts later.
This here is just some footage of a little hike that we did around Green Lake. It's this area that we visited when my in-laws came to visit, and then we also took a little day trip to Portland. They had never been to Portland before, and they really wanted to see it while they were visiting. We just kind of walked around the city, did some sightseeing, and we went to the zoo. I took potentially way too many pictures and videos of the animals, but I really like getting to go to zoos and like learning about the animals there and about the different conservation projects that benefit them. So yeah, I thought that you might be interested in seeing some of the animals that we saw here. Some penguins. This bat house was really cool, just with a bunch of different fruit bats. And yeah, fish. Piranhas, just being little lazy guys. And then in the evening before driving back, we took this little walk around the waterfront and had just a lovely day together.
Someone has discovered that although we are out for a walk, she can leverage this into getting a lot of pets if she just comes and headbutts me. Like she's shedding. Don't mind the airplanes. But her ears, they perk up. They perk. Will somebody please tell this dog that no matter how much she tries, she cannot go to human school? She keeps trying to go inside the school, and she just can't. So, for reference, this azalea across the street. This light pink one, probably gonna fit in that truck bed. This monstrosity, meanwhile, is like the size of 2 cars. Same plant, but oh how they grow up so fast. Hey y'all, it's Anna. It's the 25th of May. Been trying to figure out for a minute how I wanted to finish this vlog out because if well, you will be watching this from the future. I don't know why I said that. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that we are, as a country, just reeling from 2 mass shootings in less than 2 weeks. One at the supermarket in Buffalo, New York, and one at the elementary school in Texas. And it's just a bad time. There's really not a lot of things that I can say about this that haven't been said, except just fuck the NRA and fuck the politicians that put the money that they get from gun lobbies above human lives. It's really that simple. We need reasonable and rational gun control in this country yesterday, and we need to really just address this as the public health emergency and the crisis that it is, because I'm just getting really angry and really sick and tired of watching these massacres just happen and people asking themselves, how could this possibly have occurred? And it's like, wake the fuck up. That is how. The fact that we have politicians in power that put right to own military grade assault rifles above the safety of the people that live in this country. So yeah, pretty upset about that. The reason why I'm adding this little update here is because what I had originally wanted to do was tell you about my bookish experiences that I had with my best friend Colin, who came to visit, and then with my in-laws when they came to visit afterwards. And And also because I read a lot of books in the week that Colin was here, because we just did a lot of reading together. But right now, it just doesn't really feel like the time, and I feel like I don't really have the mental and emotional bandwidth to talk about the books. At the same time, we are coming up to the end of the month, so if by chance, between the state of the world and some, mental health self-care, and then also me trying to, fulfill my other non-booktube responsibilities, I somehow don't manage to finish up this vlog very tidily. Now you know why. I'm gonna do my best to talk about those books, but not today. I don't think that it can happen today. So we'll just see what happens later in the week, if I kind of have that energy and bandwidth. But if this is it, and this is the end of the vlog, thanks for watching. I hope that y'all are doing okay out there. Take care.